I'm Bob Holden. I'm a chiropractor. I currently live in British Columbia in Canada. I practice an associateship in Langley, British Columbia, which is just up the Fraser Valley a little bit. And I live in White Rock, which is right on the Pacific Ocean on the U.S. border. I've lived there for about almost 7 years now. Prior to that, I practiced for 26 years in Mississauga, Ontario, a suburb of Toronto. And the subjects I want to talk about, I've got a couple of them, but I'd like to talk about ones that were in Mississauga. I was kind of inspired listening to John talking about Gary, and it reminded me of a young fellow that had come in to see me. When I was first in practice, I had a very small office in my home. It was only about 400 square feet. And a lot of the patients, came from the surrounding neighborhood. And as it happened, I had these two sisters that were coming to see me with various problems, and they were teenagers, I would say, and they had a younger brother, whose name escapes me, and it'll come to me. But in any event, he was very, very unruly. I don't think he was quite as bad as Gary, but he was definitely a behavioral problem. And I remember he wasn't coming in for care at the time, but his sisters were, and he came in and he was smacking his sisters, and he was throwing things around, racing around in the office. And it wasn't a very big office, so there was nowhere for him to really go. And it was this happened 2 or 3 times, and finally I think they made him come in with his sisters into the adjusting room to keep him from causing raising havoc in the waiting room while they were getting their adjustments. So anyway, he was way out of line. And so after I adjusted his sister, or perhaps while I was adjusting his sister, I kind of put the hand on him and put him down on the table, and I gave him an adjustment. And almost instantaneously, he was a different child. He settled right down, and his sisters were so impressed that they made his parents bring him in for regular care, and it worked out very well. But he's just, I guess, it was one of those cases where he had so much nervous energy that wasn't getting out that he was fighting for it. The one I really wanted to speak about, though, was a young lady who was also from the neighborhood, and her mother had come in to see me with some problems, and she asked me about her daughter Michelle, who at the time was about 5 years old, and we're talking now, this would have taken place in the late 1970s sometime. And Michelle had some problems. She had severe asthma, and she had a severe bedwetting problem, and she was not a very healthy child, never had been. It had been a very difficult birth. She'd been in the hospital about 40 some odd times in her 5 years of life already, and it was just a very unhealthy situation, and it was causing a lot of stress on the family as well, because it just was an enormous amount of time being tied up with that, and the worry about her not being healthy. In any event, her mother asked if I thought we could help her, and I said, well, it certainly would be worthwhile to bring her and have a look at her. And she came in, and she had a number of obvious spinal problems, and so I recommended that we do go to work on her, and we did. And we worked with her for quite a period of time. And it's funny how you sometimes forget about how dramatic changes are to you as opposed to, say, the families. And because it wasn't instantaneous relief. There seemed to be making a little progress, and then somewhere along the line, about a year later, we did a reevaluation of her, and she'd gone from being in the hospitalized 40 odd times in 8 years, to being hospitalized 1 time in the previous year, and the bedwetting had stopped. And while she wasn't perfect, she had improved dramatically. And over the next couple of years, she really became back to being pretty much a normal child. And the asthma had just about subsided completely. And then they moved up from North Carolina, and they moved back to North Carolina, and so I wasn't able to keep track of her. But those would be the 2 that I'd like to speak about. Obviously, but many others over the years. But those 2 were inspired by this.